Hello. My experience applying to USPS exposes injustice baked into their hiring system. 1. The USPS rewards hard work over smart work. 2. USPS requires people pleasing and self-sacrifice. Here's a quote from the hiring system test they have you take. They expect workers to be working 6 or even 7 days a week. When they said this in the test, there was no mention of healthy work/life boundaries. This quote, people tend to work 6 or even 7 days a week, implies USPS wants to hire people without healthy work-life boundaries. A lot of the scenarios in this test for USPS describe choices workers would have to make between their own health and happiness versus helping others who are struggling. For example, on this type of question, you have to choose which of the multiple choice questions you are most likely to do and least likely to do. A coworker is struggling with a task, but if you stop to help him out, you won't be able to leave work on time. A. Stay and help the coworker. B. Alert supervisor and finish my own work. C. Give your coworker some pointers and finish my own work. I selected that I was most likely to do C. Give him some pointers and finish my own work, and I was least likely to stay and help him. C allows me to maintain firm boundaries to protect my mental, physical, social health, whereas A would cross those boundaries and require self-sacrifice and people-pleasing. When I took the USPS hiring test, I pictured they would get a personality overview, and that would just be one factor as they consider other things, such as my previous experience. However, I didn't think I would be immediately disqualified based on a score that I needed to pass in order to even be considered. The fact that this has a score that you have to reach rather than just presenting a personality map that they could consider, the fact means that this test has correct and incorrect answers. And it shows that USPS is seeking to hire very specific personality types and not others. However, hiring people pleasers and self-sacrificers means that your workers will be sicker, less satisfied, and more burnt out. I was really hoping for something better, but it just goes to show how our system of capitalist exploitation poisons our public services. I answered honestly on that exam. My poor score shows that USPS are not looking to hire people like me, with strong boundaries and unwilling to make sacrifices that benefit the ruling class at my own loss. In other words, it's a win-lose situation. The ruling class wins when people say what hiring systems want to hear, people pleasing, and we, the worker, lose. We lose our health, our happiness, our sense of self respect, and even more sadly, our sense of self trust, because we would be lying to ourselves to suggest that these hiring systems were otherwise. I applied to USPS because on the surface, the job seemed like an okay fit. What I really want to be is a vegan barista. At least I wouldn't have to hear the Pledge of Allegiance every morning if I was a teacher, which is what most of my past work experience is. But now I realize I'd be wearing United States symbols in the uniforms, which is even grosser. Well, maybe just as gross. But here's the thing, the chance to be outside, moving, providing a service that seemed less problematic than teaching, at first at least, getting to know the layout of my city, working mostly alone, and of course, the cha-ching paycheck all seemed really awesome to me. But just from the hiring exam, I could tell it was an overwhelmingly toxic work environment that encourages workers to not have any boundaries to protect their personal well being. From a public health perspective, that choice is extremely hazardous. I don't want my post office workers exhausted driving those huge death machine metal boxes around my neighborhood. Do you? And I knew this would be true. I knew this would be the case before I even started applying, since my house is right next to a mailbox. Every couple of days, the city couriers come by, and they are almost always, if not completely always, rushed, stressed out, and anxious. And I knew that I didn't want that for me. So why did I even try? Moving forward, I encourage anyone connected to USPS to unionize if possible and quit if that's possible for you, and it would make you happier and healthier. USPS is like that toxic friend that doesn't like you the minute you start enforcing good boundaries. No, we won't be smoking together. Yes, if we hang out, you'll be paying, etc. Get out and start repairing your mental health now. I personally made the tough choice a while ago to move back in with bigoted family because although we disagree on almost every political topic, I knew I'd be safer, happier, and healthier here as a free artist rather than in one of those toxic workplaces. Here at home, I've been able to hold strict boundaries, such as no, I won't be babysitting for free, no, I won't be participating in colonizer holidays that currently pollute the months of November and December. However, it's not perfect since I tend to hold my tongue more than I'd like, and these blood relatives around me don't have good boundaries nor a good sense of judgment when it comes to politics, health, collective justice, and well being. So I hunt. I hunt for the job or jobs where I can be my fullest self at work and that pays well enough so I can have a modest home with the correct vibes, energies, and political understandings around me. Please like and subscribe and consider donating a one-time Cash App donation to $Xylopiano or consider subscribing to my juicy Patreon, patreon.com/Xylopiano, so I can get a little bit closer to that dream. Sending you all love tonight.